Alright, so this is going to be a tutorial on how to write things in HTML. Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create an HTML file. So I mean, the way you do this on Linux is use the touch command. So I'm making a file called test.html just on my desktop. I'm gonna move it right here. And on Windows, you can do this by going into File Explorer or whatever, or right-clicking on your desktop and selecting Create a New File. And then you're going to have to go into your settings and select Show File Extension Names. I don't know what exactly the option is, but I think it's something like that. Because it doesn't let you create an HTML file. You have to create a text file and then change the extension to HTML, or you could save it from Notepad or whatever. And then anyways, you're gonna want to open this up in a text editor. So I just have Gedit right here. So there's nothing in this file right now, quite obviously. And we can open this in our browser. Just open it in your browser. It's kind of easy. It should just open if you double click it, but I just did that because I'm kind of cool right now. Okay, so yeah, and whatever text editor you have, Notepad should work fine if you're in Windows, but I recommend getting something else like Notepad++ or Atom, or maybe even Sublime or something if you are willing to buy the full version or get that annoying pop-up. You can also install Visual Studio or whatever, but I don't recommend to do that because that takes up bazillions of gigabytes and it's kind of cringe. But anyway, so this is how you start. So basically this file test.html is open in the browser window and the text editor window. So we can write things in here, and then we can reload the page right here to see the changes we made. So the first thing that I'm going to do is do this. And doc type HTML, and I actually should change the font size because this probably will be hard to see. Doc type HTML, that just tells the browser that it's an HTML document. You don't have to put this in, but you should because, well, here's the thing. This tutorial is kind of going to be about the proper way to do things, because if you don't do things this way, then it'll work on normal browsers, but it might not work on every browser. And I'm just going to show the standard way to do things that'll always work. And if you go into view source, for example, we'll just do this first. And to define the actual document, you just do this. And HTML, that's your base. This is basically XML, and what that means is that you have start tags and end tags. So this right here is a start tag, and this right here is its corresponding end tag. You can tell it's an end tag because it's got a slash. This does not have an end tag. I'm not really sure why that is the way that it is, but we'll just live with it. And then an HTML document is really two parts. It's got a head. And by the way, you can nest these. That's how we're going to be doing everything. Just put them inside of them, and a body. If you ever used any other programming language before, you know about nesting things like this. Basically, the head is metadata about the document, and body is basically what gets rendered to the screen. And this is important, and I'll show why this is important. So if I do this, I save it, and I reload it. Obviously, we haven't put anything in here because, there's nothing in here. But if we go and do view page source, you can... Yeah, I've already made an error. Look at that. And then it will stop complaining about that. But anyways, look at that. This is perfect HTML. This is perfectly valid. It doesn't have any little red things on it. But watch what happens when I delete this. This will turn red, and it'll be start tag seen without seeing a doc type first, expected doc type HTML. Again, if you don't do this, if you don't have this, I'm not going to save it. Just if you don't put that, it'll render correctly on like most browsers, but it's always good to have that because edge cases. And so this is going to be HTML. This isn't going to be CSS. So this is going to be a lot of semantics. And semantics are basically like what HTML kind of is. Honestly, like, this is just my kind of opinion. People have kind of forgotten what HTML is about. Like, modern web design is all about like the final product, like what you see when the browser renders it. But there's a kind of like a lost art in making everything just semantically perfect. And you don't have to agree with me, but I agree with myself. And this is going to be a valid tutorial otherwise. So basically, I've wasted 7 minutes, fuck. So the way you set, you're going to notice that like right here, it'll give you this like big ugly file path, and that'll be your URL if you put it on a server. So it'll be like yourwebsite.com or whatever. It's just going to show up here. And unlike other sites, like for example, like Cirx, like, oh, never mind, they didn't do it. That's kind of a shitty example. Maybe like, I don't know, YouTube, no. In my website, yeah, it says Holonet. It doesn't say Holonet, the XYZ in here, like it says in here. It says, just says Holonet. And also it says a little icon and shit. So the way you get that is you go into your head, and since your title is kind of like metadata, so, and you don't have to put a line break like I did with this, because like we're just going to be putting like a single string of text in here, so it's kind of a waste of line breaks if you do that. But anyways, the standard way to do indentation with HTML and JavaScript is with 2 spaces. That's just how it is. I read that somewhere. But anyways, so let's do this. Test web page. And then that'll work. And as you can see, it says test web page right here. Ain't that something? And then we can also do, I don't actually know. No, I might just look at this source code on my website. Fuck. And yeah, these are a lot of things you can do in here. Like for example, this will set your style sheet. We'll talk about that in another video. And this is a magic little. This is like a little magic thing that I love, because this will make your site visible on mobile. If you notice, if you go on some sites, they're like really zoomed. If you go on some sites in your phone, particularly like really old sites, they're all zoomed out, and you can barely see what's on the page because it's so tiny. But with this, it like makes it so the web page is like zoomed in, but we're not going to deal with that now because we don't really need it. Something I like to do just because of semantics is author. This will set your author. They should make an author tag, really. I think that might exist, but it's probably used for something else except other than metadata. But anyways, so yeah, and look, still we got our perfectly valid HTML. And so there's a lot of little things you can put in here. A lot of ways to format your text. The basic paragraph is a P. So this is a paragraph. This is going to be an exciting experience, because this is going to be the first thing that we'll see on this little blank thing. Look at that. This is a paragraph. And this is a... We're going to make a heading. And the way headings work in HTML is that there's like H1, H2, H3, and I think there's like H4 and maybe H5. I'm not really sure. But they get progressively less significant. So so if you have like nested sections or whatever, you can do that. Like if you have like headings and then like subheadings and like subheadings, that's like H1, H2, and then H3 or whatever. So we're just gonna do heading, just like some text right there. See, it puts heading in this little font. And we can also put another paragraph. And we got another paragraph right there. And something really cool about HTML is that this is italic text 5. So that'll be in italics right now. That's I is just a general purpose like italic. And if you go into there's actually a lot of these tags like the HTML tags. Like if you just look up HTML tags, then you'll get just an ass load of stuff. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is like a little list of tags right here. So as you can see, our doc type tag is all right there. Hey, this is the thing that people care about because this is how you make links. So so we can make another like paragraph or whatever. Like click on this link. And to make this a link, we just wrap this in a little A. But, oh, it's not a link. Oh, what could be wrong? Okay, so there's what you do is you do this, like, see right here in the this meta tag, where we have name equals this thing in quotes, content equals this thing in quotes. So that's called an attribute, and elements can have them. So, and the way you specify a link for an A to point to is you do an href. We can put any link in here, so we can do that, and this will go here, so that worked. We can do yep, and but something else we can do is we can create another file. So we have another test HTML file. And so we can probably just like copy and paste some stuff. Maybe put like, I don't know, linked head page. I think you might know where I'm going with this right now. But so we're going to make a little link. First, we're going to make a link. We're going to make this link to that. So test2.html. This is what's called a relative path. It's a path relative to the directory that this is in. And in HTML, you can have relative paths and absolute paths. So if it doesn't start with a slash, it'll be like, it'll look for this file in the directory that it's in, that this file currently is in. If it starts with a slash, it'll start from your root directory, which is like the root for your entire file system. Or if you are hosting a web page like on a server, it'll be it'll start from the home page of that server. Basically, like, so for example, on my website, a relative path, like if I went to this, so if I go to this page, which has a bunch of links. This link, it links to october.mp4, and I will pop this out because it's getting congested in here. So look at that. So if we inspect this right here, it actually links to the video file october.mp4. And yeah, OBS is kind of making my computer unusable. They need to fix that. Oh wait, no, that's just never mind. So it links to october.mp4, but as you can see when I hover over it, in the bottom left corner of the window, Firefox says that it links to https://olnatext.xyz/olavideo/october.mp4. So the browser automatically knows where that is, because it doesn't start with a slash or anything, so it's a relative path, so it just tacks us onto here. But for example, if we changed this to /october.mp4, then as you can see down in the bottom left corner, it starts from the original root of the website, and then it directly appends to that. So if we click this link now that we've changed it with inspect element, it's going to give a 404 page, because obviously it doesn't exist, but if we just do this, then it will give us that video file. And so that's the difference between relative and absolute paths. It's kind of simple once you get the hang of it. And let's have this link back to our original test.html file. And let's reload this. Look at that. And now this is showing this file. And this will link back to the original file. That's pretty nice that that works. I'm trying to think of what other cool little tags that there are. Field set is really cool. I didn't know this existed a while ago, and now that I do know, it's really cool. So let's do this, field set. So field set is a little box, kind of. And you can do this cool thing with it where you can specify a legend. I think this is the one. Where you can just type something and it'll actually appear right here, like in the intersection with this line. Like if you try to do this, replicate this effect with like CSS and stuff, you're gonna have a really bad time. And I know from experience. But this is a really cool little element. And you know what you can also do? You can put inputs in here. Oh, one thing that should be noted before you have an input, you have to have a form. A form is a form, like that you fill out. And that's what you enter things into. So input, name, and you should always specify a name for your inputs. Because when you use these to actually do something, then that name will mean something. So like, let's say name. And then you're going to have an input. So basically what this thing is, input type submit. An input, you'd think it's like a text input, but that's just in the cases where it is. As long as you have input, I should probably put type equals text. So if you don't put type text, it's not really important because it'll automatically assume that it's type of text and But if you put type submit, then it'll say, okay, this is the submit button for this form. And it won't be an input, it'll be a button, which is kind of funny. And by default, it says submit query. That's kind of stupid. Let's change that. You do that by setting that's a value. So, that's possible, but don't do it because it's kind of weird. Okay, so another cool thing you can do is you can specify a placeholder, which is different from a value because it's like a little grayed out text in the background before you type something in. So this is really fun. I love this. And you can also have an input of type password. And probably should name pass. Placeholder. And look at that. And if you noticed, it's kind of weird because and the reason why password is cool because if you type something in one of those things, it'll automatically do this. And replace all the letters with dots. And this is where semantics is important because if you have a website and you have like a login form like this and you want to make it so browsers will remember that login info, it'll have that pop up that says, do you want to remember this login info? That it'll work properly. And for some reason, web developers still fail to do this properly. Like it's the literal easiest thing that you can do, and they still fail to do this. Like, I've literally been on sites where this doesn't even work. It's not implemented properly. I literally made a joke site, and this is, like... Actually, it isn't. Never mind, because this is a joke, but... Never mind. But these look kind of weird because they're right next to each other, and usually they're on, like, different lines. But thankfully, there's a little tag that you can implement that takes care of this problem. It's called a BR. This stands for line break. It just stands for break. There's no line break, but it is a line break. But anyways, this just like is like a you hit return. Actually, this looks kind of worse because they're like stacked up against each other. But no, who cares? That's the job of CSS to make things look nice, and we're not using that in this episode. Another cool thing you can do with HTML is you can put images down. And let's find a really good image. Oh, I know. This is a perfect image. Why doesn't it let me do that? Oh, it's all the way over here. So this is an image right here, as you can tell. And it's kind of small. You know, I'm going to pick a better image. It's bigger. Yeah. Yeah, this is bigger. It'll look a bit better. So we can do is image. The image tag, and the way you specify where the image is a source, src, the src attribute. And this is the same thing with same deal with the A element. You can either put in a relative path or an absolute path, and since we're just gonna do a relative path right here. So this will be 420.jpg. Because that's the file name. It's awesome. And it just straight up appears like right there. If we want this to be smaller, we can use the width attribute. And boom, we just made it 128 pixels big exactly. And this is already looking pretty aesthetic, but you know what'll make it more aesthetic? That's right, horizontal rules. You didn't guess that. Because nobody fucking uses these anymore. Well, actually they do, but they're just so heavily stylized they don't look like ass anymore. Yeah, this is really cool because you can just make horizontal lines like literally anywhere you want. I think that's really dope. Obviously don't do this, just use one if you need to. This probably should show like what a subheader looks like at least. So H2, just create one of these. So this is a subheader. It's not quite as big as like a main header, but that's what we'll deal with. Oh, another thing with images, image tags. Because we're about semantics and accessibility right here. And this is something called an alt text. So this is designed so that if people can't view the image, they can at least see something. And an alt text is like text that goes in place of the image if it can't load, or like the person using a screen reader, or they're in a text-based browser, which are really cool. And so, picture, and it's supposed to be like a really like descriptive thing. And if the image is not necessary, if it doesn't really contribute to the content of the website, if it's just like a decoration, then you should not even put an alt text because it's not like an important part of the website. But if it is, and we're going to pretend that this is like an important part of the website, we can put an alt text. So alt, album cover of one of Macintosh plus albums. And you can't really see it. But if we actually break this link right here, so this file does not exist. So it'll just, yeah. So it'll actually load the alt text when the image doesn't load, which I actually think is pretty dope that it'll do that. And also, if we use a text-based browser, like I'm just gonna open my terminal up right here, and I have this text-based browser installed called links2, and I'll specify the file name, so test.html, and look at that, it'll give us our alt text right here, and we can have our like things right here. Honestly, I do not know why it doesn't like work with placeholders, but what it does work with is labels, and yeah, those are pretty cool. And this button, it works with that, works with this link. Yeah, but we should probably put labels because labels, they're important. And I'm gonna try to see if I can remember how to do this. So do this label for name. I think this is how it's done. Actually, I've never done this because I probably should be doing this. Yep, there we go.
Actually, this is false. I've just realized this. The for attribute on the label, it points to an ID. So you have to put an ID attribute in your input, and then with the label, you put the for attribute, and then you type in the ID of that input. So it's kind of like this. So yeah, it's not the name, it's the ID. I don't know why it's like that, but yeah.
So we're not going to do this here because this page is like so messed up beyond comprehension. So we're going to take this and we're going to make it ours. So normally in like HTML documents, like web pages, you got yourself a header, you got yourself your main content, you got yourself a footer, and you also have your navigation bar. And HTML actually has semantic elements for these, so you can tell the computer like actually what those things are, and it'll like know, because HTML is like really a language of defining. HTML is like a semantic language. It's a language where like everything means something in like this like weird way, and even though that you can't really see it on the times. So we do this header different than the head element. We can do this, and it's different from a heading. I love this so much. So actually, probably big is better. Big. You're not supposed to do this right now because apparently like you can do it in CSS and like people get mad at you, but honestly, in my opinion, that's kind of stupid. This is a perfectly valid semantic element, and you can style it to be big if you want. So, link it page. And let's just put the title here to be redundant. And navigation. So your navigation bar, navigation list of links. So here's another little cool thing, semantic. If you have a list of something, like a list of anything, or like a thing, like just like as a list of stuff, then you're probably gonna want to use either an ordered list or an unordered list. By default, an unordered list just has bullet points, and by default, an ordered list has numbers on it because it's ordered. And it's really easy to, and the reason why you should use these is because, like, again, with like accessibility and semantic things, it's really easy to take out the list styling and just make it like an assortment of like what it is, or just like really mess with it in CSS and whatnot. But right now, I'm gonna do this. No, that's the list item. UL. So UL, that stands for unordered list, and then LI stands for list item. And in HTML, if you have like a header, like say you have like a heading that's also a link, or you have like a list item that's also a link, you have to put the link inside. It's like best practice to put the link inside of the element, because I don't know, but it definitely does make sense when you really like kind of like think about it in an abstract way. But just make sure that like if you have like something that's like an element, but it's also a list. If you have a paragraph, an element that's also a link. If you have a paragraph, that's also a link. If you have like a bold text, it's also a link. You're gonna want to put like the element first, and then like the link inside of it. So A there, and then so the text of this link home page, I guess. I don't know. This is not really. It's a poor excuse for a home page. We haven't tested HTML. href equals test.html. And we can link to this page, because we only have 2 pages. I mean, let's just pretend that we're a big website here. And so this is our navigation bar or whatever. If we load this up, and let's just check to see if we did anything wrong. Nope, we did everything right. No red things. So we have our header up here, navigation bar up here, in the middle of here, and then next is the main content. So I like to kind of think of the HTML as having like 2 layers. One is like the meta layer, and one's like the visible layer. So the visible layer is like what's inside the body, and like the meta layer is like stuff that's like outside of the body and the body itself, kind of. But so like the meta version of header would be the head, and the meta version of main would be the body. Like, I just think that's a cool way of looking at it, to be honest, and that's just what I say about it. So, in this main, we can put, like, paragraph, maybe. This is the more semantically page of the two. And so we can also put a footer. This is where you have like things on your websites like stupid links or copyright information. Oh, we can also put quotes. Probably we could put a block quote. We can pretend somebody said something really some like absolute banger bussin' praise for our site. So we can do, this site made my wife wet. And then we can do like copyright information. So paragraph again. So we can like copyright this is another thing you can do. There's a semantic element for putting a date down. So 2021. Look at that. Probably February. Look at that. Isn't that so cool how HTML even gives us a little date semantic element? I don't even know what the hell it's used for, but there's probably some little script that captures those and like understands them really well. Someday there will be a browser that'll like completely take advantage of semantic elements and like do this whole thing with them. I don't know what it would do, but I think it's just neat. So yeah, we can do that, and it'll do this, and it'll work awesomely. We can do that, and it likes that. You know, I bet it gives more information about the date in here. So, wait, is there no date? Have I just been putting date all this time and there's no date? Oh, geez, it's time. I've literally been doing this wrong like the entire. You see, I'm learning something too. This is a learning experience for the both of us. Oh, I just put title instead. Look at that. See, now we have our perfect like little semantic elements or whatever. Okay, so we don't like how it says copyright here. This kind of cringe. So what we can do, we can use a character tag. Character codes in HTML always begin with an ampersand and end with a semicolon. And they have what the character is in the middle, so copy is the copyright symbol. And look at that. Isn't that awesome? Look at that. We can just get a copyright symbol. We don't have to like do like our compose key, or we didn't have to do the alt numpad things. And it's also preferred to actually do this. This is the way you're supposed to do it, because otherwise if you just paste like the copyright character into your thing, it might not render properly on some things because it won't understand the text encoding. Yeah, it's just an awesome thing that this exists. And if you go to this wonderful website called theasciicode.com.ar, it'll give you all these ASCII letters, and then it'll also give you the HTML entity, which you can just copy and paste into here, and then like if you like look at that, and this will work. Look, we got the E with the umlaut, yay. And yeah, and you know, you can also do this like really yeah, it's really awesome. And that's what I'm gonna do for tonight. I might make more This video should not have been 44 minutes long, although I'm probably gonna like trim it and like shotcut or something, but it doesn't matter. All right, bye.